Google just released their documentation on how to rank an AI search, and I'm here to tell you that you should not take it as the keys to the kingdom on how to rank for AI search. There's a lot of things missing. There's a lot of nuance in today's video, and we're going to walk through a bunch of data. So without further ado, let's get right into the data. All right, so this is what Google released as their documentation, and I'm not going to walk through everything here. In fact, I actually created a whole blog that basically walks through exactly my takes on their documentation and numbers, but I've developed a little bit of a dashboard that we can look at together that walks through the data. But I will just say at a high level, number one, like when we look at the documentation and what it's calling out and how you can optimize for AI search, which is what they're claiming that this is doing. We look at it, number one, just my big takeaways, just if you want the TLDR, rich media always increases citations and SEO ranking factors. We'll get into some of that data here in a second. Making sure your site loads fast is crucial, especially for AI crawlers. Number three, continuing to follow EEAT or EAT is going to be crucial moving forward. It's still a fundamental for SEO, which also relates to GEO and AEO. And then finally, don't make content targeting terms that are 3 words or less. Basically, that just means that like if you are using Ahrefs or SEMrush, try not to be targeting these highly competitive terms anymore, because there's not a lot, like the way people are searching is fundamentally changing. And I don't think that there's enough juice worth for the squeeze and effort that you actually have to put in to rank for these terms, right? So I mentioned there's data. Let's get into the data here and walk through each one of these and the data behind each one of these claims that I'm making. All right, so if we're looking at the data in this quick little dashboard I've developed, essentially to start, we're going to talk about rich media, right? This is my insight one, basically saying that if you have YouTubes or videos or any sort of rich media on your content is going to help you get cited in AI overviews. That is something that was cited in Google's optimization guide, and it's something I've been saying for a long time now, but these are one of the highest impact drivers for citations. And as you can see the data, 414% growth in YouTube citations from an NP Digital or Neil Patel Digital study. And then if you look at how to video citations, that's a 651% increase in terms of citation jumps. And then ChatGPT cites high view YouTube videos more often than Gemini does. That's a 1.5x return. But if you just look at this from a graphical perspective, July of 2025 all the way to January of 2026, you can see how this is just like increased drastically, right? And there's not any new data on this yet, but I am willing to bet that this has only gone up more since May of 2026. And so there's a clear trend here with YouTube and rich media. And it's not just YouTube videos, right? It's audio, it's structured metadata, and it's also like infographics, right? And so there's a lot of benefit you can get from a citation perspective if you are including rich media on your blogs and not just making them longer. Insight 2 is all about site speed, and I talk about how if your site is not loading very quickly, then you have a very real chance of an AI crawler just skipping your site. And so an AI crawler doesn't only need to be able to see your site quickly, but it also needs to be able to understand it quickly as well. And I know that Google talks a lot about why people have been talking a lot about their llms.txt file and saying, oh, it's not needed and it's like a waste of time. And in my head, I can't see how you could make that argument when you see the data and it says that if the AI crawler is not able to see your page within 200 milliseconds, and within 1 to 5 seconds, it's not able to figure out what you are doing in terms of your business model, it's just going to leave and you're not going to get cited. And that's a massive problem for you, as you can see here. So these are the times that it takes time to first byte range, right? So if 200 milliseconds, if you fall in that range, you're in a very healthy spot. The AI crawler will be able to figure you out really quickly. Acceptable is 500. Risky is anywhere past 800, like 800 milliseconds, right? And then poor is just 1800 milliseconds, which, by the way, a lot of websites fall in these risky and poor areas. And you'd think that your website loading in under a second or under 1 second would be fast. But in reality, it needs to be loading in under 200 milliseconds if you want to have a very good chance of the AI crawler actually looking at your page. So technical SEO matters so much more now with AI crawlers because their timeout window is so low compared to regular site crawling. And as you can see, only 47% of websites actually pass this and achieve the good scores listed below, which is kind of crazy, honestly. It just means that literally more than half of websites have a lot of work to be done from a technical perspective. So that's generally why I say site speed is a huge thing to be improved now, and LLMs.txt files are still crucial to have on your website. Now, I talk about EEAT in my blog a lot more, but here's the data behind it. Basically, if you have a author on your content, it is a much higher chance of being cited. In fact, if you don't have an author on your content, or it's a generic like marketing team at company, then you're going to have a actually huge penalty. It's 64% penalty if you do not have an author on your content. And this is cited by a hash meta study that was done relatively recently. And so if we just look at the data, right? So when we say author, like what do you mean by that? And as you can see, anonymous corporate, you have roughly a 0.36 chance of getting cited, which is basically less than 1. So you're going to be getting a less likely chance of being cited. Brand team, again, it's still less than 1. If you have a named author, that's like the baseline, right? Like if you have a named author and it says like this was written by Ian Binek, then you have at least like an equal footing chance of being cited. But if you're able to go much further than that and you say named author plus bio, so you include like Ian Binek as a digital marketer with nearly a decade of experience in the digital marketing space with highlights in B2B SaaS, that's going to help a lot more from a credibility standpoint. And finally, this says full metadata and cross-web. Basically, if you have an author section on your website where every author has their own page and it shows other blogs that they've written and it includes more information about them, maybe in a more robust fashion, that is going to be the best citation modifier that you can actually have on your content. So when we look at EAT, I do think that it's crucial for you to be including authors on your blogs. Otherwise, you're going to be getting a pretty significant penalty, and that's just not good. That's not helping anybody. All right, finally, I just want to talk about search term length, right? So I mentioned in my blog, it's good to not go after these terms that are 3 keywords or less now. And here's the data for that, right? So the average Google AI mode query length is 7 words. And the average AI tool query for like ChatGPT, Claude, etc., is 20 plus words, right? If you look at how this has changed over the last like year or so, it is 2x, right? So the average search length is 2 times longer, 200% larger than what it was years ago. So if we're looking at January 2022 to May 2024, then you could see that the amount of terms or the amount of searches or search volume that have 7 to 8 words, 9 to 12, 13 plus words has literally just doubled, nearly doubled in size when you look at each one of these categories of terms. So that just goes to show that and I'll just say also, look, if you look at 3 to 4 words, 1 to 2 words, 5 to 6 words, that is down significantly in 2024. And so this data is relatively like old, honestly, but we're in 2026 now. But this is still shows me that like this has changed probably fundamentally even more over the last couple of years as AI has been more integrated and LLMs have been more integrated in people's workflows and information gathering processes. So that being said, it's crucial for you to start focusing on longer tail terms if you really want to make a splash with any AI citation efforts. And like I said at the start of this video, I have more of this information. If you want to drill down even more on my narrative around this, you can check this blog out on our website where I go very much in depth and I try to include infographics and practice what I preach whenever I'm talking about these things for AI search. Generally speaking, these are all being read by Google and the AI crawlers, and they're helping our content get ranked in Google search and other LLMs. So I hope you found this video helpful. And if you did, be sure to leave a like, and I'll see you guys in the next video.